Welcome to the Golden Chair, a place where we make sure and try by all means to empower Black people with as much information as possible so that we can look at markets and sectors beyond government. We look at the various sectors. Last week, we had a guest, Ms. Ndobu, who gave us a very detailed, empowering information on the oceans economy. 2 weeks earlier, it was the hospitality industry, somebody who shared information about the hotel industry and the restaurants industry and how to start a restaurant and grow your restaurant if you are already in that sector. A few weeks earlier was the retail sector, fuel retail sector, etc., etc. But today we are looking at economic transformation. We are in our midst. We are lucky to have Kganki Matabane, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Black Business Council, which is well known as the BBC. Welcome to the Golden Chair, Mr. Matabane.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kambule, for inviting us. We're looking forward to an engaging session.
Thank you, sir. Let's get on to the business of the day this evening. Just tell us a little bit, about yourself. Who are you, and the journey to get to becoming a CEO of such a powerful institution.
Yeah, I started. I come from Limpopo, and I started as a teacher, where I was teaching maths, economics, and accountancy, or accounting as it's called now. And I basically started there because I didn't have enough money to further my studies. That was my fundraising strategy to start there. And it helped me there because then I was able to save enough money for one semester, and then from there I managed to get bursaries until now. So I studied the cost and management accounting, and from there I did the postgraduate diploma in business admin, and I did the masters in business leadership. So I've been around a lot of companies. I started my work from when I was still a student. I was a student assistant, assisting other students who were studying end user computing, and I also worked at Starterfords during weekends. So when Starterfords was closed, my heart was actually broken.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I learned a lot in Starterfords, especially customer services.
Right.
It basically taught me that you don't have to judge people by the way they are dressed. Someone can come dressed in a way that doesn't look like they've got money, but what they contribute to the company was huge. So we were taught to treat all the customers the same. So that was very, very important. And then from there, I worked in Rustenburg in the mines at Anglo, worked at Spoornet, worked at City Power when City Power started. I also worked at the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and the Black Management Forum, and then I worked at the Business Unit South Africa. Before I went to Centec, where I was Executive Director and the Chief Operating Officer. And I also then tried to assist Centec in doing business in the continent. So I've been to a lot of countries in the continent, mainly the ones that are war ravaged. Because what we're trying to do, we're trying to rebuild the infrastructure, the technology infrastructure. Most of the time when there's a coup or something, the first thing that was destroyed is television and radio. So I've been to Sierra Leone, Central African Republic, Gambia, Tanzania, Senegal. So I've been in Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya. I've been to many continents in the countries in the continent. So I do have an appreciation of doing business in the continent.
Wow.
The challenges, infrastructure challenges, roads, and all those type of things. So in some of the countries you go and you get accompanied wherever you go by people carrying serious guns. You get so uncomfortable yourself, because in South Africa we're used to entering a hotel without even seeing a security guard. But other countries, you can't go to a hotel without being searched.
Yeah.
Because I think of the challenges that those countries have.
Right.
And also that also taught me patience, because sometimes you live here on a Monday hoping you'll have your meetings on Tuesdays or Wednesdays and come back, and your meeting only happened the following week. So you have to sit there and don't know what to do with yourself. So right. You have to have patience.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the things that make one to grow. And then I came to the BBC. BBC was not in a good state when I came almost 3 years ago. We were always in the media for wrong reasons. Our leaders were accused of embezzling funds. So we were fighting fires. And obviously then when you're in that situation, because BBC is a non-profit company, it gets its funding from sponsors and supporters. So the supporters stopped paying, and we had to, we were owing SARS, we were owing a lot of other organizations, we were owing staff salaries. So yeah, we're not in a good space until we got into elections. We elected the new leadership led by President Sandile Zungu. And from there, we started to rebuild the BBC to where it is now.
Wow.
Now, I'm glad to report that we are basically an organization in South Africa that is taken serious. We get consulted basically on everything.
That's true.
Even yesterday, we were at NetLeg when the president was discussing we were presenting to the president what we think of the economic recovery plan. So we are now taken serious as anticipated, and that's what basically where we wanted the BBC to be. But we're still rebuilding. We're still in the rebuilding phase. One day we'll get it right, hopefully.
Well, maybe as a follow-up question, someone might ask and says, well, what is the BBC? What does it do? I know I've done, I've interacted with the BBC. I know a lot about you guys, but there could be a viewer out there who doesn't know much about the BBC. Can you just briefly tell us what does it do?
Yeah. Maybe let me quickly take you through. The BBC is divided into like 3 main membership categories.
Right.
So we've got one, we are a confederation, almost like to give an example, we always give example of COSATU because people what COSATU is. So at COSATU, you cannot go there and say, I work in a mine, I want to join COSATU. You come to COSATU through other organizations. So if you are in the mine, you must go and join NUM and so on. So at BBC, we've categorized our membership into 3 categories. The first one is what we call organized professionals. Those will be professional people who are working for different companies who form their own organization.
Right.
They are sectoral in nature. So we've got the Black Management Forum, we've got the Black Lawyers, APASA, Black Engineers, and so on. So those will be professionals. And then we've got another category called organized business. Those will be people who then form, who will have who are owning companies, but then will go and form their own association. There we'll have like a NAFU, which is a farmers it is a farmers association. We've got NAFCOC, we've got SATACO, which is a minibus taxis. We've got the hairdressers. So we've got almost all the sectors. We've got the people in the built environment, we've got people in ICT,
Right.
and so on. And then we then run the the last one is what we call corporate. So we do have companies that join us directly. Like we've got Zico, we have we've got Coca-Cola, Sanlam, and so those will be normal companies that join us, but that buy into transformation.
That's correct.
And then the way we work in what we call portfolio committees. So all these membership categories will then nominate people to committees. So the work of the BBC is done through committees. Those committees are sectoral committees. We have mining, we've got financial services, we've got agriculture, manufacturing, ICT, and we've got youth and also women. And that's where basically the work is done, because BBC is mainly a policy and lobby advocacy organization. So a lot of work that we do is mainly on policies. So we influence policies, we comment on policies, we recommend changes in policies. And where policies are there, we advocate for the implementation of policies. So we're working very, very closely with the many departments, starting from the presidency, National Treasury, the DTI, tourism, ICT, PE Commission, and all those that are pushing for economic transformation. And then through the committees, we then zoom in on specific issues. Like to give an example, with the Financial Services Committee, now we're busy with the 200 billion relief scheme that was announced by the president, because the take-up is not as anticipated. And we almost 70% of the people who benefited from the scheme are white companies. So we want to increase that and make sure that a lot of black companies also benefit.
Right.
So I think that is in short. So individuals who want to join the BBC either have to come through companies or through associations. They have to go and join our associations, and then they can come through BBC, and then they get nominated to committees, and then they serve in various committees. Yeah,
I must say, that was a very detailed explanation. Thanks a lot. But I must say, you have you and the board have done a wonderful job in turning around the BBC. I mean, it's prominent. It's in the media for great things. You guys get consulted. You're always there. I mean, pre-COVID, post-COVID, well, not post as yet, even during the COVID, you are always there. We could see you, we generally see you, and Mr. Zungu in the media. And we always say, well, we're proud because we know we are represented as Black people. So we must say, and you're also not scared to tackle, the difficult issues which some typically people will be scared to deal with, but you are able to confront them. And we commend you and the board for such a great work. Now, reading through the vision of the BBC, it envisions a South Africa that is being transformed. It has a transformed economy that is led by Black-owned small, medium, and large businesses who are seen as drivers of economic growth and job creation. Now, my question is, that's a great thing. I mean, we'd like to get there, that we as Black people, no matter how small or whether it's small, medium, or large corporates, that we want to, to make sure that we drive economic growth, to drive job creation, because we are the majority of the population in the country. How do you see the BBC achieving this? Obviously we're aware it won't happen tomorrow. It might take a decade or two. But what programs and how do you see the BBC achieving this?
What we want to do, ultimately, we want to see Black people playing a meaningful role in the mainstream economy.
Right.
Not in the periphery like now. There are progress. There is progress that has been made, but it's not sufficient enough. There are a few big black businesses, and some of the people in the media will then call them usual suspects, which is actually incorrect and wrong, because the way capitalism is structured, you are always going to find a few people who are doing well who are at the top, but we want to bring the majority of the people to be participants. And then those people who are calling black people usual suspects, they don't refer to white people as usual suspects.
That's true. That's true.
So there's no consistency there. So we need to deal with those labeling of black businesses, because we're not fighting for black business to remain small business.
Yeah.
We want black business to also be big black business.
That's true.
As you said, black people are majority in the country, so ultimately the ownership of the economy and management of the economy should reflect the demographics of the country, which means it will be almost 90% black people.
That's right.
Being apportioned according to the demographics in the country. So that's basically our objective, and we do that through many other things. First thing is through policy making, because it's important that the policies that are passed by cabinet and parliament are enabling black business to thrive. Hence, we fought for the Black Economic Empowerment Act to be enacted. Is there. We are now pushing for its implementation. We've been pushing for the repeal of what is called the triple PFA, which is a procurement legislation by government, because it still favors white business and big business.
That's right. Yeah.
So we've made some progress there, because there was a public procurement bill that was released. We've made our inputs. We're engaging with the National Treasury on it, and we'll engage on it fully at NETLAC. I think the COVID has sort of disturbed it, because there was supposed to be public. There were supposed to be public consultations,
right?
But due to COVID, we were not able to do it. But I think now that we're moving to level 1, we should be able to move
to engage,
with the implementation. So we've been pushing for various things. We've been pushing for the issues in the mining sector, to say we don't support the once empowered, always empowered, because it means what will happen. A mining company will get B partners and make their life difficult, so that they get out, and then they're empowered forever, and they're going to run the organization as they used to run it, even when black people were not there.
That's right.
So we don't support that. We're supporting the issuing of the spectrum to black people, so that we can have, in the ICT sector, we can have new players. You just mentioned you're in the rural areas. There's no network there, because the current ICT companies, for some reason, decided not to put a proper network in the rural areas and in our townships. So when you are there, the network is very slow, because you may find you are still on 2G, while the rest of the big cities are on 4G and are working on 5G. So the network is very slow, and also it's very costly. If you want to download, because I come from Limpopo, if you want to download something, you have to maybe go on top of the mountain. So that can be right. And then also the big thing, we're working very closely with the Competition Commission, because the structure of our economy is such that it's concentrated. We've got a lot of monopolies, oligopolies, that don't necessarily allow new entrants into the market. If you look at all the sectors, you can count them: telecoms, financial services, mining, consulting, accounting. they have what they call the big four, the big three, the big
That's
two,
true.
who own almost 80-90% of the market.
Yeah.
Which then means that all the small businesses and the black businesses must only compete for the 10%.
That's right.
So we need to open the market and increase that 10% to maybe 30%.
That's right.
We're not necessarily saying there's no room for big players to be in the market. They should be there, but there should be enough room for small businesses to be able to share. And the other issue that is very big is lack of what is called risk funding. So there's no risk funding in the country, and that has led us to a lot of things. For example, if you look at in mining, the people were given the prospecting licenses, but they were not able to own the majority of the mines, because then there's no risk capital in the country. They'll go to Canada, go to Australia, and then to get funders. When the funders they come to South Africa, they risk their money, and they end up owning the majority of the businesses. Hence, even the new people who were given licenses post 1994, they still don't own 51%.
Wow.
Because of funding. The same goes to the renewable energy. Renewable energy is a new industry, but there's no black owner there, because there's no risk capital. The capital that can allow you to take the project to feasibility, where then you can be able to raise money. So if you look at the renewable energy space, it's the same. Black people were given licenses, they had to go and get funders. Those funders, because they are bringing their own cash, they are taking risk. They then demanded to own majority stake. So if we leave the spectrum issue, it will be the same. ICT will never be owned by black people.
That's true.
So there are various issues that we're tackling as we speak. From a funding point of view, because that is a big issue, we've partnered with the Bank to develop some funding mechanism for small businesses.
Right.
That will then go a long way in making sure that black people at least participate in the economy. It's not an easy struggle, but I think it's a struggle that we're prepared to take, and we think we can win.
Well, maybe if we can zoom to that, because it's quite an interesting one, and I know my viewers are going to be, asking the questions. Without getting into the specific details of your transaction or your relationship with the Bank, but what is the probability of also engaging National Treasury for a guarantee? Like they're doing now with the banks, with the big four banks, to say, you remember the cooler scheme about 15, 20 years ago, where government will guarantee a certain portion of the loan, 50%, and then the first 50%, which means that you are able to increase your risk appetite. What is the probability of looking at such schemes within the relationship that you've got, so that it can expand?
Yeah, what we've been doing, for example, with the 200 billion loan guarantee scheme, and I think it's important that we must emphasize the importance of the 200 billion, because the president announced 500 billion package, COVID relief package.
Right.
And out of that 200 billion, which is 40%, was then allocated to the loan guarantee scheme. It's a huge amount of money.
Yeah, it is.
But the take-up has been very, 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 very slow. Mainly because of what we are raising. One of the proposals we've made is that we need to allow not only the banks, we need to allow other players who are assisting small businesses on a daily basis. We call them non-banking SMME funders. Because those ones are dealing with the small business on a daily basis, but also their risk appetite is much, much higher than the normal banks that we have.
Traditional banks, yeah.
So we've been having engagement with the Reserve Bank and the National Treasury And we're proposing that because unfortunately they cannot be allowed to participate in the scheme the way it is. Because the scheme the way it is only allowing banks as regulated, so by the Banking Act, or the Banks Act. So those non-banking SME funders are not necessarily part of the traditional banks.
Right.
So we've proposed that out of the 200 billion, maybe we must take 20 billion and set it aside.
That's a great idea.
For those, and that would then include small banks like Ubank and others, and African Bank and so on. And then maybe it can even be extended to the developmental finance, to development finance institutions like the ITC, Itala, others in other provinces, so that we expand the reach, and we reduced the stringentness of the criteria, because the other challenge we raised even with the president was that when the criteria was announced, it said companies must be in good standing with the banks. So for you to qualify, you must be in good standing with the bank. So we gave him an example to say, but President, let's take one example. I do business with government, or I do business with big business. I don't get paid, or I don't get paid on time. So instead of being paid in 30 days, I get paid in
3 months from
maybe 1 year, because it happens you get paid in 1 year. Which means that in between the time I should have been paid and when I am actually paid, I have to survive. Which means that the commitments I have with the banks, I'm not going to be able to meet them.
Are going to be affected,
I'm going to meet them. Then it means I won't be in good standing.
Right.
So my own government comes and say, I want to help you, a small business. But you must be in good standing. But I'm the one that did not even pay you.
I'm the culprit.
So I don't pay you on time. You are not in good standing. I come with the relief fund to help you. But I say you must be in good standing. So it's a vicious cycle for small business.
It is.
So we've raised that. We're now discussing this at NetLeg with National Treasury and the banks to say, let's find a solution that doesn't come from a textbook, but that is informed by what is happening on the ground. And I think we're making progress. Probably maybe in the next few weeks, there may be an announcement on what can happen, because now Treasury said they need to go and look at the legality of what we're proposing.
That's right.
Whether it's legal or not, it's also the legal people are looking at it and checking if there's any act that can be used to do that. So once that is done, at least it will expand the reach.
That's right.
For this, and we also engaged with the business partners, because they've got what is called Sakunu Fund, and they do have some portion of the money that is a grant. So we hosted them this week for a webinar to then get our members to be informed on what to do and how can they be assisted, because most of our members are not necessarily looking for big amounts. They're not looking for billions. They're looking for like 100,000, 500,000, 10 million, 5 million. They're not looking for huge amounts.
That's right.
But with that amount, they're able to employ a few number of people. And where the country is, we need to create jobs so that we can reduce poverty and then grow the economy.
That's right.
And the impact of COVID has been very, very, very significant, negatively so. on a lot of companies. So a lot of companies may not be able to reopen when we get to level 1 and level 0. So it's important that they get helped. And hence we've been pleading that some of these relief funds, there must be like a payment holiday, so that you don't get the loan today and then expect it to pay at the end of the month.
That's right. Yeah.
You should be given maybe 12 months
to recover,
to revive your company, and then you can then be able to start paying after 12 months.
That's right. No, it makes sense.
That way, I think it would be very helpful to organization. But what we're saying, we're also saying, even when we've got the crisis, because what has happened during the crisis, some of the organizations were busy taking government to court and saying government must suspend economic transformation and BEE, triple BEE, and we said no, that can't happen.
Yeah,
we joined as the friends of the court.
Yeah,
and said this can't happen. It does not necessarily mean because there's a crisis we suspend the constitution of the country.
Yeah, yeah.
And then economic transformation legislation, specifically broad-based like Economic Empowerment Act, comes direct from the constitution, from section 217 of the constitution.
Right.
So you can't then want to suspend parts of the constitution. And fortunately, the judges found in favor of specifically the Minister of Small Businesses, the Minister of Tourism.
That's right.
And in our favor that you cannot suspend economic transformation. Instead, you're supposed to be implementing it even more, and accelerating it so that we have made more players. So we emphasize that even in the economic recovery plan to say it can't be business as usual.
Yeah.
We need to utilize COVID as a reset to say the last 26 years of democracy, we did not necessarily have enough people, black people, playing a meaningful role in the economy. Let's use this crisis to then ensure that black people play a meaningful role. The other important thing is localization, and then that has also been laid bare by COVID.
That's true.
Because when COVID started, when other countries that we depend on for PPEs and then simple things like masks, they closed their borders. And once they closed their borders, it meant that we cannot import anything.
That's right.
We are now at their mercy. So we're saying, let's learn from COVID, make sure that if there's another pandemic that happens, God forbid, it must find us ready with our own local production and local manufacturing. There's no point of manufacturing masks importing masks that we can manufacture here in South Africa, and then we can create jobs here.
Yeah.
Because by purchasing PPEs from other countries, we're actually creating jobs in those countries, not creating jobs in South Africa.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's important that we localize, including localizing the manufacturing of the ingredients to the ARVs. Because South Africa's got like around 5 million patients who are on ARVs, but we don't manufacture ARVs here. We manufacture, we're importing it from other countries, which means we're actually creating jobs in other countries. So it's important that we need to localize those. And hence we've been pushing for the public procurement bill, because the current procurement legislation is not an enabler to that.
That's right.
You need to specify that in the procurement legislation that governments should not import PPEs. They must buy them from South Africa. That must be in law, because if it's in law, the procurement officers in state-owned enterprises, in government, in municipalities, can only implement what is there. They cannot implement anything else, otherwise they'll get into trouble. So you need to get the legislation to be enabling, so that we then can localize. And then the Black Industrialist Program that was also initiated by the BBC There are also flaws there in terms of the funding part, because the funding does not talk to procurement legislation.
Yeah.
So you can become you can be funded today as a black industrialist.
Yeah.
You have a contract as an SOC. The contract comes and ends. They cancel it. They give it to someone else who's not funded by the state. So the money that the state will have advanced to you is at risk, because how then do you pay the loan if you don't have a contract, and the contract that you're supposed to have is supposed to be in the SOC? So that needs to change. And also some of the things that we raised in the procurement bill is that these 3-year contracts don't necessarily work for, if you want to create jobs, and create sustainable jobs. We need to give people, black people, longer term contracts, so that if you get a 10-year contract renewable for another 10 years, you can create a proper factory. You can create, you can hire people for long-term contracts. Rather than when you get a 3-year contract, what can you do? You can't establish a factory, because some of the factories, just to establish one factory takes 3 years. By the time you establish a factory, the contract is over.
Contract is finished,
then what happens? So people need to we need to have to do what is called strategic procurement, and strategic sourcing, where we identify commodities that should be given longer term contracts, so that people can then establish companies, and they can be able to then secure funding. Because when you go to a financial institution and say, I only have a 3-year contract, the contract must, the funding must be talking to the 3 years,
to the 10 years,
which may not be affordable to you.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Well, I think you've covered a couple more questions which I intended to ask. But my big question is, how do we get us as black people to support black businesses? You know, for some reason, South Africa is a country where we want big things. For instance, most of the population support Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates, not because they are the best teams, you know, obviously they're well funded, because we want to be the winners. We want to go for the big, you know, for the big things. We shop in the malls. We don't want to support small businesses. How do we get black people to support each other and be patient and give feedback instead of criticizing? Because sometimes I know, you need to give feedback and say, look, you were slow, the product was not great, it wasn't packaged properly, etc. Whatever the challenges are, but be patient with each other. When you look at other, you know, nations, they support each other. The Chinese support each other. The Pakistanis, the Somalians, there's a lot we can learn. Whites, Indians in Devon, etc., etc. How can we achieve that?
Yeah, I think it starts from what Steve Biko said about the colonization or liberation of the mind. I think because of where we come from, we've been taught to doubt ourselves and to doubt the black people.
Yeah.
Majority of people, of professionals, will tell you proudly so that my child doesn't speak vernacular, that they don't go to black doctors.
You're right.
They don't have black service providers. Some of them, they even fight you when you are at school and asking why don't we have black teachers? When the school principal bring more black teachers, they move their kids to a school that is a private school that is got white teachers. So
you're right.
We need to have some sort of an exercise that then liberates the mind, because until we get there, we're still going to struggle, because for example, you hire a white service provider, they make a mistake, but you instead of criticizing them, you are even laughing and supportive of them. But a black service provider comes and make a mistake, then you even block them. You don't even want to hear from them. But it's the mind thing. I think sometimes some of the people feel inferior because, for example, you see when you profile a black CEO who's appointed, and you mention the fact that they are black. Other black people, not even white people, other black people come and say, but we need to move on. We need to move on and forget the past. And we can't, because until we deal with the past, we can't forget it.
That's right.
But the very same black person will come and talk about the genocide that was done to the Jews. So you can see we don't necessarily believe in ourselves, which we have to work on it. It's a process.
The process
that we have to work on, and as such, then sometimes we are not even necessarily able to negotiate prices. Even salaries, we're not necessarily able to negotiate salaries. We become too shy to say, this is what I'm worth, other stuff, I'm not taking it. So we end up underpricing ourselves. And then once you've underpriced yourself, you still have to go and buy equipment. And when we buy equipment, the price is the same for whether you're undercharged or not undercharged. So people then end up buying inferior equipment that they come and install, and then it does not last. But that doesn't help from a reputation point of view and a credibility point of view.
That's right.
And then we undercharge, but also when a black person is asking for a service from another black person, they want to negotiate discounts. But when they go to white companies, they don't negotiate discounts, because I'm involved in another business in the motor industry where we're selling cars. Black people are in that industry, in that because maybe it was owned by white people. They don't negotiate discounts. They just go to a car dealership and they get told this car is so much, then they accept it.
And they buy it,
But when it's another black person, they want a discount. We need to learn from Indians, because Indians, wherever they want to negotiate discounts. It's a good thing. We need to learn from them and do that. So then, because we undercharge, sometimes we end up accepting more jobs than we can deliver on. You see, for example, when you're building a house, you hire a contractor, and then he or she accepts maybe other 5 jobs at the same time. And they end up not finishing on time, because then they have to juggle around so many things. But it's mainly because they've undercharged. So I think we have to have confidence enough that what we do is quality, we believe in it. We charge what we want to charge. We must take it or leave it. And at least then we develop our own credibility. But I think even us as a consumers, we need to be firm, but we need to be forgiving to black people. If black people make mistakes,
that's right.
We need to recognize that they made a mistake and give them another chance. You're always going to find situations that are very extreme.
That's right.
Where you try to build the house, you get someone to design the house, you pay them the money up front, and they disappear, they block you on the cell phone. But then get another person, because some of the white people can also do the same thing. But we still forgive them and give others a chance. So we need to forgive ourselves. But the biggest thing, we need to work on our mind and on mentality, that a black person can be as good as other races. We need to learn the confidence of the black Americans and the Nigerians. The Nigerians, they've got that confidence that say we can be the best. So I think we need to learn from that. It's going to take time sometimes, but I think as and when we emphasize it, we will be able to learn more, and we'll be able to then get to a level where we believe in ourselves. So the people who are given responsibilities in private sector, state-owned enterprises, who are Black, they must be supported so that they must succeed. Because as they succeed, even in sporting teams, if they succeed, it builds that confidence.
That's
and it builds that credibility in the market that Black people can do it. So it's important that we do that. Because, for example, you see, when we talk about the foreigners, we're not necessarily, we're basically referring to foreigners who are not white. Because even when people say they are marching against, they're driving foreigners out of the country, you'll see that they never go to Sandton. Or Clifton or Mhlanga or anywhere else. They go to the townships and rural areas and informal settlements. It's again the mind issue, because we don't think a white person can be a foreigner. And we do have a lot of white people who are foreigners who are born in South Africa.
You're right.
Even when someone was not born in South Africa, the moment they become prominent and they're Black, we start to question where they come from. But we don't do the same thing when a white person becomes a CEO of a company. We don't question where they come from.
That's true.
And most of the time, you might find they're not even South Africans.
Australia.
So it's an issue of the mind to say we can't be saying anything Black is bad. Like anything a Black business person does is corruption. It can't be like that.
Wow, that's amazing. Please leave your questions on the comments section. We want to ask Mr. Matabane, if you want to ask any questions or give us input, we'd love to hear from you. Share the page, share this very rich and powerful conversation on economic transformation. It's just given us an amazing response on the question about transformation, particularly saying we have to, as Black people, transform our minds. My next question to you is, unfortunately, the money leaves our townships immediately after payday. And as well. How do we turn the situation around? It's a big problem. I think the money changes hands to the Jews 12 times. I think Indians 6 times. I can't remember the actual statistics, but I remember very well that the Jews, it's 12 times. But to us, it moves from Kambule to Van Wyk. It doesn't move from Kambule to Matabane, to Nzele, to Mkhize, to Ngobo. Before, even it's beyond just the township, but it doesn't exchange the hands.
I think again it's the issue of the liberation of the mind, because to give you an example, in Soweto, in the Matabane Mall, there was an exclusive books there. It got closed within within less than 6 months. Because again it's the mind thing. People rather go and buy an exclusive books in Sandton than buy the exclusive books in Matabane Mall. So we still think that things you acquire from a white organization, they're better than the ones in a Black organization. Because it's a mind thing. For example, if you establish a dealership in Soweto, people will pass that dealership and go and buy a car. Inside, they want their sticker to be written Mercedes-Benz something instead of Mercedes-Benz Soweto.
Yeah.
So you can see people value places that they think are white places more than the places that are black. So we have to do, again, we have to engage in this education of liberating the mind. I think the other issue also is regarding the spaza shops in the townships. In townships and rural areas, most of the shops are now owned by Pakistani and so on.
Yeah.
And they're able to compete with the malls and the big retailers.
Yeah.
Because they've engaged in bulk buying. Because if you buy in bulk, you are able to negotiate discounts.
Right.
And I think it's an issue of unity, because we're not united as black people. You rather go and stock or buy on your own instead of establishing a bulk buying system where you contribute money there.
Right.
By the time you go to a retailer, you can negotiate serious discounts, and then you pass those discounts to your customers.
That's right.
I know, for example, in Soweto, Pamoti is trying to do that. Tawanzere is trying to do that through Pamoti. And yeah, it's a process. I think hopefully
the process.
It may get there one day. But until we do that, our goods are always going to be expensive.
Yeah.
And then again, because people in the rural areas, townships, informal settlements don't get paid well. Every cent counts. Yeah. So if they go to spaza shop A, bread is 10 rands. They go to spaza shop B, bread is 11 rand. They go back to the 10 rand one and buy the loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And you can only be able to then charge 10 rands by accumulating discounts and passing those discounts to customers.
Yeah.
But the main thing is unity.
It's unity. Yeah.
If we are not united, we are not going to get anywhere.
That's right. Yeah. No, thanks a lot. My final question is just as an example. I'll pick my favorite country, Turkey. Turkey about 30 years ago took a decision to emulate or copy its economy against that of Italy. For instance, they said, we're going to focus, because remember, Turkey doesn't have mines, doesn't have gas, doesn't have minerals. But at the time they had quite a big unemployment. But they said, well, we've got a problem of unemployment. Let's create a culture in the country of manufacturing. They started investing in the clothing industry, clothing and textile industry. As you probably know, Turkey is one of the very well-known countries in terms of clothing, manufacturing, fashion, high quality. Unlike China, it's well known for good quality. They then do furniture. Some people don't know, but Turkish furniture is amazing. They also do rugs and carpets. They also do tiles. Exactly what China, what Italy was well known for about 25, 30 years ago. So they've actually taken a large chunk. Just in the clothing industry, they have over 1 million jobs that they've created within the value chain. Now, how in South Africa can we create, in your view, can we create a culture of manufacturing? I know the masks did bring that culture of manufacturing, the masks, clothing, etc. But how can we, what can we do as a country to just bring back that culture? It doesn't have to be a big factory. It can be a small factory, a backyard operation by high quality. In your view, what can we do?
Yeah, if for example, if you look at the Turkey, and you can even look at Dubai.
That's right.
So the first thing I think is about decisive leadership. You need a leadership that decides. You need the political will, so that by the time we agree on something, once you've agreed on something, it may not be 100% perfect. But let's implement whatever we agreed on. Dubai was a desert. They took a decision and implemented it. Turkey did the same thing. Singapore did the same thing. Malaysia did the same thing.
Yeah.
China did the same thing, and decided to implement.
That's right.
So you need a leadership that will say, this is where we're going. We're going to implement this. And then, yeah. So if you take manufacturing, as I indicated, there's a disconnect between the procurement legislation of the country, the funding legislation, and the funding regime,
right,
and the manufacturing. If you look at one example, ESCOM. When ESCOM was started, they got a bright young man called Van der Bijl to run it. He was even sent to Germany and other countries to go and learn how this thing can be done. But there was a plan to say, we need to have cheap electricity, cheap funding from the IDC.
Right.
The recent Van der Bijl even went to run IDC. And then said, we want to develop a steel industry. So that there was a process that said, these things must be linked. For you to revive the steel industry in South Africa, you have to have a funding that is cheap. You have to have electricity that is cheap. You can't have a situation like now where ESCOM wants to increase electricity by 50%, and you think you can have manufacturing.
That's right.
It's just not going to happen. So for me, if you want to manufacture, let's say we want to manufacture PPEs, we want to manufacture medicine, we want to manufacture clothing, we then need to make sure that the value chain talks to each other, because it's not going to help you if you're going to establish a factory, you manufacture your PPEs, but government legislation does not force anyone to buy from you.
Yep. Because
you have to have the access to the market.
Yeah.
If the legislation says no, government is free to go and buy in China, in India, the procurement professionals will implement that part and leave you. So you will start the company, maybe you are like you get funding, but you'll be in trouble because then you have to, how are you going to service the loan?
That's right. Yeah.
Because no one is buying from you. So there must be a proper coordination in the value chain to say we're going to force people to buy local. Those ones, for example, who are buying things, maybe they are buying equipment from overseas, we give them time to say, you can only buy this thing for the next 5 years.
That's right.
From there, you must establish a factory here. You must, if you are not able to manufacture here, but then you must assemble here. So that we can then create jobs here. And then by assembling here, you'll be able to then to create a capacity in terms of support, maintenance. That way, you're also growing the skills base, the technical skills base.
Yeah.
So if you're in ESCOM, you're buying a transformer. If you can't produce it here, then assemble it here. If it's a cell phone company, your Apple, why can't you assemble your iPhone here? We can do that with many other things. That we will develop our skills, but that can only happen if the legislation is aligned.
That's right.
Because we don't want Apple to come and bring their iPhone here, and then you go and buy another cell phone company and import another cell phone company from another.
That's right. That's right.
So those things need to talk to each other, because we must also understand we're not necessarily a big market. Yeah. As far as the world is concerned.
That's right.
So when you're a small market, people are looking at sort of incentives to come to your country. So the legislation regime must be able to encourage them to then come to the country. Otherwise, then they'll go to another country that is more friendly to them.
That's right.
But all these things need to talk to each other. There must be a well thought through plan, an alignment process. And until that happens, we are likely not to achieve this. But on top of that, you need the decisive leadership. That we need the political will that people will take decisions. But we also need to deal with corruption, because when you've got a situation like in South Africa where there's a lot of corruption, you don't then have confidence. People and investors don't have confidence in the country. They are not encouraged to bring their own factories here because they think maybe something is going to happen to the investment. So we need to decisively deal with the issue of corruption.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we were very lucky to have Kganki Matabane this evening. Thanks a lot, Mfowethu, for such a very insightful, and I'm sure the viewers interview. The viewers are empowered. We wish you all the best in this great journey, and we have every confidence that you and the board and your team underneath you will definitely be in a position to achieve the vision of getting Black businesses, small, medium, and corporates that are going to drive economic transformation, that are going to drive economic growth, going to drive job creation, and achieve the land of plenty as we are hoping. We really have all the confidence. We're fully behind you. I urge all the viewers to go out and join the organization and the organizations underneath, Black Management Forum, etc., where they're professional, a Black professional, or a Black business person, small, medium, micro, or corporate, no matter how small or big you are. Join those organizations that are part of the Black Business Council. Great things are happening. The vision is great, and we can see the plan. Preferential procurement plan, the BE Act that you're advocating for, and the youth bank relationship that you've got. It looks at the entire value chain, and we really feel that you guys have arrived and the great work that you are doing. Any final word that you want to say to our viewers?
Yeah, firstly, Mr. Kampule, thank you very much for inviting me to this program. And what I would like to plead to all the Black people out there is let's be united, because without unity we won't go to get anywhere. Remember, we are the majority. The legislations that are there are trying to empower the majority. So it should be much easier if we are united to achieve those objectives. Unlike other countries where they are trying to empower the minority. Here in South Africa, we are the majority, so we need to utilize our power, buying power, to be able to change the patterns of ownership and patterns of management in the country. We can't be sitting here with the CEOs of the top 100 JSE companies still being white males. We do nothing about it. We really have to do something about it. But we can only do that if we're united.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks a lot. Now, thanks. We really appreciate the great work that you are doing, and may the good Lord bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.